become familiar with Dorothy's writings through my work with the Alzheimer's Society, I became drawn to how she wrote, how she described what she saw and what she felt, how she noticed details such as the line of silver along a sheep's back, the shape of leaves, and the melting of colours. I've always loved being outdoors. I've always loved words and the pictures that they paint. My paintings are often visualisations of the words that I might feel when I'm on a walk. I found the walk itself, our Scafell walk, quite magical, even if Scafell drew out its dragons and dervishes, will-o-wisps and wild-capped winds. It was like watching an incredible performance. The upwards waterfall, the hurling gusts, the rainbow, the wind dance across sprinkling tarn, the change from minor to major. It was almost like Scafell was letting us know that Dorothy's walk may have been blessed with a clear, bright and warm day, but now was the time to show us the reverse in the mirror of that. So to being Dorothy. Sometimes you can have an idea and it can grow and change into a many-coloured and splendid winged eagle and take flight whilst you watch, almost from the sidelines, as the light-filled wings spread wide and soar. And so it was with being Dorothy as part of This Girl Did. I've always been interested in the temporal expressed in the spatial. How being in a place where something specific happened, that was documented, and now the only thing separating that person, that event, and oneself is time. Like the translucence of a net curtain in the breeze, a mere shimmer away. So being Dorothy, I read her journals, I walked where she walked, I breathed her air, I looked upon the fells, I wore bonnet, a long gown, very snug under the bust, but leaves the body very free to move, just so that you know. And cloaks. I immersed myself and I tried to imagine what she may have thought and felt in order to see how doing this would affect my own art practice. It's a very selfish project. It has done so in many ways I couldn't foresee. Being Dorothy has started a long creative project I called Journeywoman. A journeyman was an apprentice who in medieval times travelled from place to place in order to learn and hone his craft. At the end of 3 years and a day, he would present his masterwork to guild in order to become a master craftsman. And so I'm undertaking my own creative journey as a journeywoman for 3 years and a day. The finish date will be the 12th of July 2021. It is a voyage of discovery, of exploration and open-ended pathways. Being Dorothy has given me a focus and has brought me to respond to my surroundings both through music and writing and sculpture, as well as through painting. One of the most exciting aspects of this has been the drawing in with other practitioners, conversations about creativity, about walking, about mental health, about environmental issues, about abstraction, endings, journeys, adventure, and synesthesia. Journeying and journaling, wandering and wandering. We have so many words for what Dorothy did. Her walking was, I feel, about several things. As well as her enjoyment and her act of creativity, it may also have been a form of escape for her. It may have been her medicine and her therapy. Her journals describe an almost manic appreciation of her surroundings, as well as depression and malaise. We know she suffered from headaches and other ills and was very up and down. Walking helped. Indeed, when she became bedridden, her greatest sadness was being unable to walk her beloved fells. She wept when she was able to see her outdoors again after a long period of illness and sight. Life for Dorothy was physically not easy. Their Little Dove cottage was seemingly full of guests. There were varieties of family dramas happening, and Dorothy was the homemaker and the host. So she worked very hard in a dark, often cold and smelly cottage, looking after a large number of people, baking, cleaning, growing vegetables. Her 4 hours walking a day were, I believe, her opportunity for freedom and an absorption into the landscape. Not that she didn't enjoy living with her brother, having visitors, but to be herself she needed to be away. Then she could have space to think, to observe, and her journaling was her way of talking to William when he wasn't there with her. When we walk, all the other stuff just falls away. When we walk high, everything drops away downwards. Civilization grows smaller, becomes tiny, delicate, miniature. We can marvel at its tininess. It becomes insignificant and then it's gone, and it's just us, with the shoulders of the hills that blur their edges against the white vastness of the sky. Walking, being Dorothy, I would feel a sense of abandonment, not of being abandoned, but of abandoning the weight of baggage that we drag around with us on a daily basis. And I believe it was the same for Dorothy. Dorothy often walked with William. They talked and spent many walking hours going through the poetry and sharing their creativity. But this is what I believe was the nature of their collaborative relationship. Dorothy, a woman of her time, was not expected to, and maybe had no desire to, find fame and fortune through publishing under her own name. So her creative relationship with her brother was reciprocal. This was the gift economy of creativity, where both the giver and the receiver benefit. In my preparation walks, I walked mostly with my partner, another artist, and we talked and discussed in a way that we could not had we been static and under a roof. Having the shifting sky as one's roof, and the changing shapes and lights of the land as we pass through it, and it passes through us, brings about a different sort of contemplation and conversation. It is where the best ideas come from. Dorothy and William knew this. William said, "She gave me eyes, she gave me ears." I too have come to know that through this project. In our This Girl Did meetings, there were discussions about summiting Scafell Pike, yet throughout I felt that an intrinsic aspect of this project was the actual journey, that is the adventures along the way, the experiences of what we were to see, to think and do, of what might happen, the emotional places that we might go to and the little epiphanies that we might have. They were what the walk was about, rather than arrival at the peak. It's worth bearing in mind that summiting Scafell Pike had not originally been the intent of Dorothy and Mary. The idea had been to see the delicious prospects from Esk Halls. Dorothy's letter is about what she sees along the way, the conversations they had, how the weather changed, and those tiny details that bring about deeper thoughts and engagements with the land that they were part of. The purity of walking is like a gift. We feel that we aren't just walking in the landscape, but we are the landscape. Dorothy would talk about how she immerses herself in her surroundings, in the fells, amongst the lakes and tracks. Whilst being Dorothy, I felt that sense of connection to the landscape, but it's more than that. We are not separate from the land, we are the land, and the land is us. Anyone who walks probably knows this. The land's bones are our bones. The water flows in our veins. Weather breathes through us. And to paraphrase, we come from the earth, and to the earth we return. We cannot possess the land. We cannot possess what already we are. When we were climbing Scafell in those conditions, it felt as though the mountain was a living being, one who was permitting us to be there, but was also showing us its power and its primeval and ancient theatre. It painted us with its orchestra, and we could taste its words on the wind. The psychologist Carl Jung was interested in people's personal journeys and their striving for emotional progress, and in his writings he borrowed the concept of Nekia from ancient Greek mythology. The Nekia was also known as the knight's journey on the ocean, a powerful metaphor. Jung adopted it as a symbol of the journey of the psyche to find emotional maturity or enlightenment. In the myth of the Nekia, the hero or heroine travels on a dark journey into a dangerous place but returns to the light and emerges as a better person. To travel to the depths of one's inner psyche and back in Jung's Nekia was a necessary process by which to achieve individuation. I've always been drawn to Jungian psychology. It celebrates creativity and it recognises archetypes. And his idea of the collective unconscious resonates with my own thoughts on how we need to connect with each other as well as with our surroundings. I felt that the Scafell Pike was in some ways a Nekia, a night sea journey. We started full of excitement and positivity, and then we faced different challenges at different times, until through dealing with those we arrived safe back at the edge of the civilised world, possibly changed people, with a sense of having achieved something quite monumental. At the start of the walk we were a number of individuals, but by the end of the walk the sense of the communal was strong. The Nekia had bound us, as we were binding ourselves to Dorothy and Mary and their party. This Nekia of the walk was also similar to the process of making a painting, I think, and possibly some of you will find this process familiar as well. You start out with excitement, positivity, full of ideas, and then you get to the bit of the slog, doing the parts that have to be got through before you get onto the focus. But that's where it starts to become a challenge. It becomes harder and harder and more stressful. Nothing seems right. Until you sit with your head in your hands, wondering why on earth you chose this career path. You've got no talent, nothing to say, and you're basically a bit rubbish and a fraud. There is a real low point, really low. I get this with every painting. However, the way out, thank you Rob, is to stay on the bus. Be determined, and slowly the zone returns and answers begin to reveal themselves until your painting or project comes to fruition and we return into the light. So, how has the project changed my work? It cemented my approach of painting a sense of place, of moving through the colours, lights and shapes, and being part of the drama or the piece of a landscape. I have become more interested in the human relationship with the land, of how we are part of it, and how our marks show our connections. We must protect and nurture our land because we are the land. I have become interested inside of the idea of audience. When we consider how Dorothy wrote primarily for her brother, I'm currently working on a project to do with women and authorship and the idea of looking upon and possession, and for whom we make our creative communications. I do recall how by a stream we looked at how one renders water in a drawing, and I said, if you look at running water for long enough, there are patterns that repeat themselves, and you can draw them. You don't need a camera if you've got time. Jeff like that. To me, that's what creativity is all about. Communication, the seeking of knowledge and connection. We are all creative beings, making marks and sounds to both express our responses to our environment and our place within it, to seek knowledge and to connect with each other. These are the earliest things that humans ever did, the arrival of the modern mind, and we have a need to be like that. In psychotherapy, there is a theory that when two beings come together, a third is made. If a loss occurs, it is the loss of the third being that creates such pain. We use creativity to connect with each other, to create that third. We used to be so much more connected than we are today. We lived in wider families, yet smaller communities that didn't change much, and we probably saw each other on a daily basis. But today we're so very divorced from each other. We have to make excuses to connect. We make bids for connection. We ring each other, text, email, needing reasons to make that contact. Being Dorothy has led me to think that we need to reconnect, not just with each other, but with our natural selves, with the outdoors, with creativity, and doing things together that take time. All these build bonds that we're beginning to miss as people, at our peril. Reading Dorothy's words, seeing what she saw, walking her walks, walking alone and sometimes in company of those I know well, these have all informed my practice and taken me down exciting new paths that I'm still reflecting upon. In Dorothy's letter, she detailed a short rain squall, tumbling streams, and being treated to the sight of a rainbow. Finding what we thought was her stream and resting beside it, sheltering under what we thought was the crag that she did, gave the sense of it all being uncannily close, that sense of the temporal expressed in the spatial. And here we were exactly 200 years after Dorothy and Mary and their party. To Scafell, time-wise, it wouldn't even have been a blink of an eye. The following is an extract from my reflection on the walk in my own journal. Then suddenly there was a rainbow. I gestured with my stick as the wind was too strong to talk. How incredible was that? We were also treated to the awe-inspiring sight of the wind whipping the leaden waters of Sprinkling Tarn into a ballet of dancing blooms of molten silver as it flung the surface from side to side. White crests 1 second, black spirals the next. We watched, transfixed. The mountain's playing with us, said Paul Davies. How right he was. As we clung to the steep, rocky track, we were hurled against, slapped and buffeted by the spirits of the fell. It truly felt like a living being showing us what it could do. I talked of mirroring the walk. This was inside the mirror. The Scafell was showing us the other side of the Scafell that Dorothy had seen. Harriet, Paul Davies and I slipped in and out of role, sometimes making Jo laugh. She said she couldn't tell if we were being Dorothy and Mary or Harriet and Alex. Maybe both at the same time, I replied. Indeed, there was a sense of that, and the more we went on, the stronger the sense of that original party crept over us, until I swear I could see them in my mind's eye, 3 strides above us, skirts swinging and bonnets bobbing. We weren't walking in their footsteps, but more stepping in their footprints.